Hello to you all. Good afternoon from the caravan in Glastonbury. And as always, I'm just going to wait for some people to join the live. A very, very unexpected live. I had other plans for the day. Believe me, I did. I was actually going to dye my hair because all the roots are showing. But yeah, because the hairdressers are shut. So apologies for the hair, but we haven't had hairdressers since December, so there you go. That's not what I've come on to talk about. Sorry. Okay, so I'm just killing time, really. Just waiting for some people to join, so that I'm not speaking to myself, even though we actually are, aren't we? This is it. We are always speaking to ourselves. Okay. There's a million things going on in this head of mine, so much information that I don't know how it's all going to come out. I have no idea really, but I've come on to talk about something I understand fully at a bigger picture level. And the reason I've come on today is because it's so up for a lot of people in the spiritual community. Last year, I think it may have been September, October, in a live, I actually spoke about this. And, you know, of course, things get forgotten. So I'm going to try and home in on it now in order to help people understand themselves and their journey a little bit more, because we always see things from the personal perspective first. That's how it's designed. There's nothing wrong with that. That's exactly as it should be, okay? But we always see our experiences from the human personal perspective first of all. And then we get to see from a higher perspective and a higher perspective. So last year, autumn time, I spoke about this year, and I explained on a video that this year a lot of people would begin to see that 4D is also illusion. I explained that we wake up first of all from the 3D reality and we realize, oh my gosh, there's actually more. And that's when we become the seeker, okay? It's actually God seeking itself through your experience, through your body, through your consciousness at that point. So we wake up from this 3D reality realizing it's not real, it's not as it looks, it's not, there's more to it than that. There's more to this experience than that. And so we start to seek outside of ourselves for more meaning, more truth. And we find the spiritual community. We find the spiritual arena. And so there's kind of this 3D over here that we no longer resonate with, and then it's like, oh wow, look at this, there's all these people that have been awake for years and I had no idea, or whatever, you know. That's what it was like for me, because I had no idea. But anyway, the point is, we find this community that seems more in resonance with our new experiences. And so when I'm talking about 4D, I'm going to approach this live at a very, very human level, okay? It's not going to be about drawings. It's not going to be about how energy works. This live is very much human level to human, in order to help human beings understand why they're having certain experiences, which actually are already designed to have for your ultimate expansion. So last year I explained that this year, for a lot of awakened people that we can say are in the spiritual community, in the 4D, that this year they would begin one at a time to start to not resonate, not align with the spiritual community in whatever areas they're interested in. These could be subjects that they begin to not resonate with anymore. They could actually be practices they have themselves that they are practicing, that they begin to just lose interest with, because actually they're expanding into more of their consciousness. So things drop off. Okay, why? Because you no longer need some of those things when you're expanded into a higher consciousness. They're not necessary. They're tools, they're stepping stones that take you, you know, they're steps on the yellow brick road, so to speak. So there's tools, there's philosophies, there's beliefs that drop away as you expand more. And these are like 4D ideas, 4D beliefs, 4D interests, branches of this tree that you've delved down, and then you're down this branch, and then you come back to the trunk, and then you might go up a bit more, and then you find interest in something else, but then you'll go down that branch, but then you'll still return to the trunk. Why? Because God is seeking itself through you. God, source, whatever you want to call it. However, I want to speak about humans. I want to speak about the human beings that are awakened, the people that you have relationships with. So you have relationships with people that are unawakened, and you still do. But you know you can't speak to them, really, because they'll think you're mad or crazy. So you find this spiritual community. And that is what I could call, just for labelling's sake, the 4D journey. 4D, as I've always said, is a temporary space we travel through. We could choose at a soul level to live there for the rest of our lives if we want to. But generally speaking, the idea is that you travel through the 4D. And in that journey travelling through, you end up discarding layers of yourself that you thought were you, that you thought were real, that you thought were your identity. And generally speaking, so these are like behavioural patterns, belief systems, reactions that may trigger underlying fears. And fears come in so many ranges, like anger, anxiety, stress, worry, pain. They can all be fear-based. So this 4D journey, once awakened, the 4D is to strip you of all those parts of you that actually aren't the true you. They were the personality that you agreed to identify with for a period of time in this incarnation, to then discard and then allow the true self to become you whilst holding on to the physical body, not leaving the physical body and transitioning or dying. Okay, so the way we as the human being find out more about ourselves is through human relationships and human interaction. Those relationships could be friendships that you make in the spiritual arena. They could be partnerships that you make. They could be teachers that you zoom into. Okay, there's such an array. However, it's all illusion. It is also illusion, and you on your path at some point, and it will be different for every single human being, and that is what to give heart to give understanding to, compassion to, peace to, is that everybody will have that second awakening at their most perfect time for them. There's no right time, there's no wrong time, there's no collective time. It's the time that your consciousness has already pre-chosen for you to awaken a second time. And that awakening then catapults you on another stage of your journey out of the 4D that you've been living in and experiencing in and resonating to. And so what happens is you find individually that you're just, it's piece by piece, you know, day by day. You just start to realize you're not resonating to what this person says, or you find there's a misalignment with a friend, or relationships become a bit sticky. You find that you're perhaps liaising or speaking to another spiritual friend, and then suddenly you just realize it's not easy. It's you're not being your true self anymore, and you go through all these human experiences and feelings and emotions and thoughts about that. Why? Because it's not real. It's also illusion, and it's very, very difficult to tell somebody who's completely immersed in the spiritual community that what they're building, what they're experiencing is also illusion. You can't, so you just keep quiet about it and you just observe. Because they'll probably punch you in the face or something. Or maybe it would be words that they would direct at you. Okay, so when you wake up from the spiritual community, it's because it's your time, your evolutionary time, to leave it. And leaving it isn't in an instant, although anything's possible, isn't it? So somebody could, I guess. But generally speaking, because the whole awakening is a process of one step at a time, it's over time that you become disillusioned by the spiritual community. You no longer resonate. So, I want to try and explain that a little bit more, and I also want to tell you and explain, just for peace of mind, just for peace of mind, that everything's fine, that everything has its perfection within it. I want to tell you and talk to you about the ego and explain it in such a way that's so easy to understand, okay? And then you can even be at peace with that, whether it's within you or whether it's experienced of another human being. At least you can have compassion for the ego. But first of all, I'm going to show you this. It's something I drew. It was a series of drawings in 2016. And I'm going to leave it on the screen. I'll do a photograph afterwards. Okay, so this was drawn 2016. And you can see there's mainly one cross, yeah? It's an equilateral cross. It's symmetrical. And bearing in mind, I've drawn this flat, okay? So ignore the flatness of this. But it's the main cross. You can see the black main cross. And then if I zoom in, you can see all these tiny crosses that I've done with dotted lines, yeah? There's a cross there. Sorry, it's all back to front, but there's a cross there. There's a cross over there. There's one higher up. All those tiny crosses are points of consciousness. They're you and you and you and you. And we're all transcending higher in our energetic frequency into the knowing of what we are. So our consciousness is rising and rising, and so is our physical body, and so is our mind. It's all rising in frequency. But each one, so we've got this central, okay, this central galactic storyline or way home, if you like, to knowing exactly what you are and being that in your physical body. That's the main frame. And then you've got each point of consciousness, which is you. You're a lighted point of consciousness, and that's who you are. But if we take this vertical as frequency ascending in hertz, yeah, so it gets higher and higher and higher in frequency, and if we take this horizontal as the experience you have, no matter your frequency, whether awakened or unawakened, the horizontal is the experience. So each time you raise your frequency, you have a new horizontal experience to have, yeah? So it goes there. And then you raise your frequency a bit more, and you have another horizontal availability of experience. So there's always the cross. There's always the symmetrical cross. And this is who you are. These are the symmetrical crosses. These are you. This is your consciousness. This light facet that is divine. So let's equate this to any human interaction you have with a person. If a person has a frequency value, that is there, okay? Whatever that frequency value is, and you have raised in your consciousness, because you're always expanding, to a frequency value that is here. Look at the distance. Sorry, I'm doing this back to front, so it's all back to front with my fingers. But look at the distance between your frequency value and where you are on your journey compared to another person and another person and another person. This is what we experience in the 4D. So you could awaken and have a friendship with somebody who is also awakened. But in your design, you may go up in energetic frequency and then start to be experiencing this and that in the horizontal plane. But this person that's your friend is still here. Or they've moved a little bit up. But suddenly there's this gap between you, and the gap is energetic frequency. That's all it is. It's nothing else. It's nothing to judge. It's just that this energetic frequency is here and this one's far away. Whereas to start with, when you became friends, you were closer together. The frequencies were similar. They were quite matched, yeah? But then this one starts to catapult upwards. And maybe you don't. Maybe you're stuck in something and experiencing this condensed spiral here. And they're just going up and up and up. And you're here. And then there's this friction between you because your energetic frequencies have moved further apart. It's just energy. It's just the dance of the light. Literally, think of 2 points of consciousness as ballet dancers. It's just the dancing of the light. But at a human level, in the forgetfulness, in the real human, raw stuff, it can be painful. It can be filled with ego. It can be received with pain. And so what happens in this 4D, which is temporary because it is also illusion, the nature of 4D is that you meet many, 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 many people. And this is where, again, I would love to share the underlying beauty of it, of what lies above this human interaction and painful experiences. let's go to soul level. So the soul is white light. The soul is already in full connection to source, to God, whatever you like to call creator. The soul is already pure. And so the soul does not have a human personality. There's no personality, no humanness to soul. Soul is pure white light. And pure white light is intelligence. It's divine intelligence in a pure white form instead of a human body form. But the soul chooses to create or have with it a body and a mind, a solid body and a mind. So you have this soul here, and you have this soul here, just as an analogy. And this soul says, I'm going to help you ascend. I'm going to help you see in your forgetfulness underlying patterns that reside within you. And so those two souls descend. Well, they don't descend actually, because they're always there. But let's just say that, because it's so hard to explain this. But those two souls then experience the body, yeah? So then we become the human that feels disconnected to the soul, yeah? We become the human in the forgetfulness that thinks this is personality and identity. And they meet, those two souls meet. Or you could meet multiple people. How, and again I've said this before, how do humans tend to explore themselves more? How do we tend to evolve more in our human forgetfulness? Through pain and suffering. It's how it gets our attention. We don't tend to learn by the happy moments, although we could, because some of those happy moments are pure ego. And we miss it. We don't see that. But we tend in our human nature to learn through pain, trauma, hurt, upset, discord. And so you have this person here and this person here. And this soul has agreed at soul level to trigger this person, to trigger them. So that this person in their awakening path looks at themselves, sees an underlying belief system, behavioral pattern, the cause of their trigger, the root cause of their trigger, gets to see it and gets to release it and become lighter of the humanness, lighter of the density, more, this is the key part, more their soul. So the more we clear within ourselves, the more we become the true self, which is the soul that is connected in awareness, in conscious awareness to Source, to God. And this is why in the spiritual arena we meet so many people. Some of them are just the actors in the play, but some of them you'll have a great friendship with. Or maybe it's a personal relationship, maybe it's an intimate relationship, maybe it's a group that you've joined. But you'll have this great bond to start with, okay? That's the attraction, because it's all getting set up. Do you see? It's a perfect setup. It's amazing. Let's set it up by having this great attraction, this great alignment within you, this great love for each other or for the group or for a friend, partner. We'll set it all up. Why? Because if you feel close to another, if you feel aligned to another, and then you have a painful experience with that person, you're going to take notice. That's how we take notice, through the pain and the trauma and the hurt, and some people feel alone. But it's through that initial beauty of alignment that's what gets set up in preparation for the lesson that's to come. But we don't see that to start with because we're not supposed to. But that's the design. And then what happens is the play unfolds. One person triggers another person triggers another person. And if we're the true seeker, if we are earnestly, through our own inner will, choosing to expand in conscious awareness into the consciousness we always have been, we will look within ourselves. We won't go and blame that person outside. We will look within ourselves and say, well, why have I been triggered? Why am I upset? Why am I in pain? Why does this really hurt me? And that's how it gets our attention, through these relationships that end up in disharmony. Bearing in mind, like I say, we're always moving in our energetic frequency. It's why I don't join groups. I don't join groups because if you have 50 groups out there, all set up with great intention, I don't want to give attention to one group and negate 49 other groups. That's favoritism. I don't believe in favoritism. I believe in equalness. I believe in one group, and that is the Creator's group. To me, groups can serve their purpose at a certain level of allowing people to feel like they fit in, because they've just come out of 3D where they don't fit in anymore. And so they're seeking connection, they're seeking family, they're seeking partnership, they're seeking their soul family. They want to find people to resonate with because they feel alone. And so they join the groups to fit in. But there's the illusion. It's more fitting in, just at a different experiential level. You're still seeking to fit in to a different reality. So that's going to blow itself up at some point. And that's why people tend to leave groups. The other thing about groups is that there are leaders in the groups. There are people that set the rules. There's the other illusion. Because at the higher level, when we all take responsibility and have attained within our own self, our own sense of responsibility, there are no need for other people to make rules for us. We're self-governing. And so that's another reason I don't join groups, because I'm aware that I'm the creator of this reality for me. If I abide by rules that are outside of me, I'm restricting my own expansion of knowing I am the creator. I'm allowing the outside to overpower me, just at a 4D level instead of a 3D level. Do you see? It's just new rules, more rules, but new ones to abide by. It's about your own integrity. That's what we grow into, our own integrity, our own choices, our own inner wisdom, and our own sense of our own responsibility. And that's a journey. It's a journey. And so what we get within the spiritual community is beautiful relationships that are designed to be set up at soul level to then highlight in love, in kindness at soul level, a behavioural pattern within us that we're not seeing ourselves. And if we're wise, we'll look at that. If we're not ready to look at that, we will ignore it, or we'll just blame the other person. But if we ourselves are triggered, there's something to look at. If we're not triggered, there's nothing to look at, because there's nothing getting our attention. Do you see? If it doesn't get our attention, there's nothing to look at. I want to try and explain the ego, because, you know, again, within the spiritual community, there's a lot of distortion about the ego, unkindness, if you like, about what the ego is, at various levels of interpretation. So I just want to give you my understanding of it, in the hope that it helps you see another person and have compassion for them as the observer, but also the beauty of seeing yourself and having kindness for your own ego in understanding it. Okay? So if we go back to, say, the natural human being, the natural one being the pure human being that doesn't carry all the baggage that has accrued over thousands and thousands of years in the mental mind. Let's take the natural, organic, you could call it the organic human being, how the human was originally designed. It was designed in its purity of physical form to have a limited experience, in the sense that solidity limits. Okay, that's what I mean by limited experience, because solidity is light condensed. So therefore it is limited to being in a certain frequency bandwidth. Within the mind, within the processor, there's a little program designed called, we can call it the ego, but actually another word you could call it is the protector. Okay, so you take man walking along and there's a branch about to fall on its head. The ego will look up, see the branch about to fall, and jump away. It's protecting the human body. That's what the ego was designed for originally. I've said this before years ago, but we're just repeating for newcomers. So you're walking along the road and an animal, or, you know, an animal is about to attack you, say, thousands of years ago, and you get to decide whether to run away from the animal, or you get to decide to stand and fight. That's the ego. It's trying to protect the human body. So the ego is housed within the mind, within the processor. It's a mini program, and its only design was to protect the body. And you have to remember also that this processor, which holds the ego, so the ego itself has no understanding whatsoever of any other dimensions other than 3D than 4D. It doesn't exist in the fifth, in the distorted way it's become, which I'll explain. That's what the ego is designed for, to protect you from the physical reality. So the soul creates the physical body, yeah, experiences with the physical body, and the ego is designed to protect the physicality of body itself from danger. And that's it. That's all it is. That's all it was. Until it got distorted and added to. And so instead of just being fearful of a tree falling or an animal coming at you, it became fearful of a person coming at you. And then it became fearful of the words spoken by the person coming at you. And that's where the ego gradually, if this is the human being, this is you, me, any human being, to different degrees, and I emphasize different degrees because everybody has allowed the ego to take over to different degrees. But if this is the human body with a purple head today, the ego can potentially take over and take over and take over and take over and take over the human. So this is the part I'd love for you to understand, because it's beautiful in understanding why you react the way you do and why other people react the way they do. There's a beauty to it. There's an understanding that you can have in your heart. And that is, we've got this original ego that took up, say, this much of the human being, okay? Just this much, just to protect it from the solidity of the world, the dangers, in order to help the body survive and live, okay? Not die in an instant as soon as it was born, okay? It's designed to protect it. But then the ego became more, it depends on the human being, and over time, over the evolution of humankind, the ego started to have another experience. And that, let's take it to this lifetime and say that that other experience was a parent shouting at you. And so the ego decided it needed to protect itself. And so it would have a particular reaction in order to protect the child. And so the child reacted a certain way, which might be to run away, it might be to fight, it might be to scream, it might be to go quiet and say nothing. But whatever way, it was designed, this ego, to protect the child. My way was to not, what's the word? Not react. Not talk back, because then anything as a child would be over quicker. So that was how my ego coped with surviving this reality, was to not add fuel to the fire and to stay quiet. And so that's what my ego did to survive, to protect my body. But somebody else, it could be to shout, argue, blah, blah, blah. And then you have another experience and the ego reacts. And it reacts this way. And then the ego can become more and more and more until, look what happens, or can potentially happen, is instead of being the human being in its pure organic form, the human thinks it is the ego. So in other words, this little program that was designed to protect it, the human thinks it now is all of this ego, and it isn't. This is a sheath, a shield of protection. This is a layer of protection that the human being has allowed to envelop it and envelop it and envelop it and envelop it until the human thinks it is that. I am angry. I am upset. I will walk away. I will cry. I am this. I am my anger. I am hurt. I am my pain. No, you're not. You're not. You're this. This is what you are underneath this. And so this whole 4D experience is the experience of being triggered by others. And what is triggered? The ego is triggered. For the human to look at, to see past, what is this protection? What is this pain? What is this fear that I have that is so distorted? And once it's seen through, it's let go of, and then it's let go of and let go of and let go of, and eventually the ego becomes less. It becomes back to this small value that it is. And that's why I say, I was trying to correct myself before, because it's not that we lose all the ego, it's that we return to the true pure part of the ego, which is just to protect this physical body, so that you have that physical life, just to run, jump out the way of the tree falling or the bus coming towards you. Yeah. But all our reactions that are defense reactions, that are defense-based, it's just the ego protecting itself, protecting this human. That's what it's designed to do. The ego is your protector. There's nothing wrong with it. It's trying to protect you. But what's happened is it all got distorted, and then this person thinks it is this. And then this person outside of them thinks it is this. And it isn't actually at a higher level true. So when you look at another person reacting, you can kind of understand why. You can have compassion for their difficulties, because you can see that they haven't worked through something that is yet to come, that is yet to be worked through. It doesn't mean you have to accept what they're dishing out to you at all, because that then comes to choice, which we'll talk about as well. But you can understand, you can have compassion, you can have sight, you can be the observer of the fact that they're still running a pattern or a program that they're not ready to see. And every one of us, we get through our programs at our own time. So that's what the 4D is designed for. That's why there are these temporary relationships. That's why you have nice relationships that don't last, or you join groups and then you just come away from the group because it no longer resonates. Because everybody in 4D, once you go into 4D consciousness, once you experience your consciousness in that 4D, you're always hopefully evolving and expanding and evolving your energy of frequency higher and higher and higher. You know, it's the ego. It's this ego that covers the personality, that covers the human being, should I say, that creates rules that people have to then follow. But when you have human upon human upon human upon human becoming the pure self with the soul, aware of the soul, seeing the soul with physical eyes, just be in the presence of soul, a human body in the presence of its soul. Nobody needs to tell you what to do. Nobody needs to expect of you. Nobody needs to set rules for you, because you are the creator of your reality. And that's why you're unrestricted, unless you allow others to restrict you. Um, 4D is a playground. It's an absolute playground. In a sense, it's easier to stay in the 3D because you don't know of any other world other than that. You think that's real, you think that's the reality, you pay attention to the rules, you make the best decisions you can, you go through life and then you die. In some ways it seems far easier than being awake, doesn't it? Because when you're awake, you then start to explore, and then you do start, whatever route or interest you have in spirituality, you do end up exploring yourself. And then you're faced with all the stuff you carried. And then you have the job of unburdening yourself. It's this year, as I said last year, it's this year that the vast majority of people in the 4D will have difficult times in the 4D spiritual playground. Why? Why will they pull away? Why will relationships, friendships dissolve? Because it's time, it's the galactic, the galactic timeline for you to see through the illusion of 4D2. And what that does is it takes you deeper and deeper, more and more into your own self. There's another thing that is beautiful, beautiful. It's not beautiful at the time, but the design is beautiful, and what it ends up as for you is beautiful. There's one more thing I want to talk about, and that is people's perceptions of you. So again, this is all related. It's all about the point where you're ready, your consciousness is ready for you to start to leave the 4D arena, because that is illusion too. So you're waking up again, bit at a time, day after day, month after month, through this year, because of things, experiences you have within the spiritual community, which is the 4D playground. Is one of the hardest things is when you are misperceived by another. So it's a circumstance that will happen, and I'll explain the beauty of it shortly. But what will happen is you are misperceived by somebody close to you, so that it hurts. Maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a partner, maybe it's a group, I don't know. But you realize you're completely misperceived by someone. So what they see you as, or what they're saying of you, you know deep in your heart it's just not true. There's absolutely no truth in it. And yet they're saying these things. And that can really, really be painful. It can really hurt when you know you had the best of intentions and somebody's thrown a wobbler. Somebody's had a hissy fit. Somebody's lost their temper. Somebody's thrown some abuse at you. Whatever degree it is. Or maybe they just walk away and you never know why. Maybe they do it quietly instead of loudly. But it's the experience of being misperceived, where you know deep in your heart you came from love, you came from your authenticity, truth, and for a reason you have no understanding of whatsoever, you are misperceived by another that is awakened. That is awakened. And there's the pain of that. And then you go through the idea of do I need to explain myself in order that this person doesn't misperceive me? So then you go down the human route, which is human, again, it's human personality of having to explain itself to another, in the hope that they then see you in a different light. Let's go back to this. It's all the same thing. If you are a point of consciousness here and somebody is here, okay, your facets of consciousness, you're here, a person is here, another is here, another is here, another's over there, all within the spiritual arena. Guess what? There is never, ever, ever going to be one of these points of consciousness that will ever perceive you the way you perceive yourself. And that is the beginning of another lesson in the 4D. and it comes through pain and trauma of being misperceived. That's how it ultimately gets your attention, by being misperceived, and that misperception hurts you. You know you've done nothing wrong. You know you came with the best of intentions. You know that if you did something, you didn't do it intentionally, and yet you're misperceived, called names, blamed, lies are being told about you, blah, 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 blah. Lies. I've never known a gossip place like 4D in my life. I'm so glad I'm not there anymore. I never resonated with gossip, even as a child. I'd never joined the gossip in the playground or as a teenager or in the workplace. I just wasn't a part of it. So that was a horrible experience in 4D, to actually go through the experience of highly awakened beings who apparently come from their heart gossip about you behind your back. It hurts like hell. I don't understand how it can even be possible. If a person's coming from love, why would they lie? Why would they tell gossip? Why would they feed another person's idea of you and try and change somebody else's perspective of you? Why on earth would they do that? I just don't relate to it. I never have though all my life. I just don't get it. But now I do. Now I know why I never got it, because it was never real. It was never true. It's not true. It's not the true self anyway. The true self wouldn't do that. The true self is the white light. It's connected already to God. It does no harm. So we have this point in the 4D ascending journey. Well, I'm telling you so much I didn't realise I was going to say today. But we have this point in this 4D journey where it's a valid ascension point, and that's the point I want to make. There's nothing wrong with it. It's going to happen. And there's a beautiful reason why. But there is this point where you get misperceived by another, even though you know you had the best of intentions. You know you've done nothing wrong. You know it in your heart of hearts. And yet you've been misperceived. Well, it will happen again, and it will happen again, and it will happen again. And it hurts each time. And that's when you realize, you come to this inner understanding within you quietly, that actually there's never, ever, ever going to be another facet, another point of light, another human being that ever sees you the way you experience yourself. They will never see you the way you think. They may see parts of you, don't get me wrong. They may see parts of the whole of you, but they're only parts. They may be correct about parts, but it is when you realize that there is no one outside of you in the illusion, in the Maya, that will ever see you the way you perceive yourself, experience yourself within you. It is at that point that in pain you ask yourself, well, who is there then? Who is there? It's at that point that you feel so alone. And you know, a lot of the reason, well, in fact, the only reason I'm doing this live today is because of so many messages from different people that are having these experiences of being misperceived, of feeling alone, of having nobody to talk to that resonates with them. That's why I'm doing the live, because I'm getting so many messages about this. It's like, wow, we need to really explain this so that people see it's a part of the stages to enlightenment of your ascension. That's why I'm doing it. It's up to be seen and understood a little bit more. But it is at the point where you realize there's no one outside of you that will ever, ever see you from your own unique perspective. And all the pain that might cause the human is just to be journeyed through. It's just steps. That pain is just steps. That's all it is. It doesn't last. And it's in that realization that you find peace in knowing there will never ever be any human being outside of you that will see you as you see yourself and experience yourself. When you realize that's a truth, you can find peace with the truth. So you no longer need to justify yourself or explain yourself. So you then become more empowered within you to just peacefully accept that nobody's ever going to know me the way I know myself and experience myself, or how my life has been, my experiences. And it's at that stage that you realize there is only one who will always, forever, has ever understood you the way you understand yourself. There only ever has been one. And that one is God itself. The God that has been residing within you all along. And when you realize that, after the loneliness, after the rejection, after the abuse, blah, 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 that there actually is one that knows you as well as you know yourself, that knows you before your thought, that knows you before you speak your words or take your actions, that knows every single moment of your life, that knows every emotion you feel and understands it. When you realize that there actually was this one energy all along, and it was always within you, that always understood you exactly as you understand yourself, and loves you, and has always loved you, no matter what you've been through, has never ever not loved you and accepted you for who you are. It's at that moment you turn to God. And I get emotional because it's so beautiful, a time that happens to the individual, where they realize that their best friend has actually been there all along. It's so beautiful. Your best friend. We seek outside of ourselves all the time, you know. Sorry about the tears, but it's just huge. It's a huge realization because it's the stage to knowing God, basically. It's the beginning stage. And I went through it about 1.5 years ago, and it was huge, painful but huge. and it's just a stage point then to the God that unfolds within you. Okay. But it's that realization that you're not alone, and you never have been. So in a way, it's completely like Dorothy and the Yellow Brick Road. You know, you have to take the journey to find what was always there all along. But when you get to that point, it's not an end point like in The Wizard of Oz, where the film goes the end. But when you get to that point, you're not actually the same person that started off on that yellow brick road. You're not, because you've journeyed through the 4D, the 4D and the 4D. Yeah. And I mean, The Wizard of Oz is a great film to watch again, because it literally says it all. But where you end up in that film isn't the same person that started. It's a wiser person because of the journey that's been taken. It's the knower. You become the knower of the underlying force and energy. I call it essence of the God within you that actually always was there. but wasn't seen, wasn't felt necessarily in the beginning of the journey. And it's at that point when you truly realize there's nobody outside of you that will ever perceive you. It doesn't. And you know, people can argue this quite easily and say, well, my partner understands me. Yes, they will understand you to a degree, but they don't feel your experiences. They don't feel your experiences, they feel their experiences, because they are a light facet too. So it's here, and everybody feels from the different vibratory point their consciousness is always, you know, changing, but residing at. It's always changing the frequency that we experience by. So we're always fluctuating and moving in frequency. But it's the God within you that has always felt every single thing you've felt. It's been there every single moment of your life, every time you've experienced something, and it has known what you were about to think via this process of mind before you thought it, because it created the waves, the sound waves that came into the process of mind before you had the thought. And so the leaving of 4D, the realization that the 4D is an illusion, it can be a painful point. And it's only painful because at that point you're still in the human personality. And so you're having these relationships and interactions with people. They're the souls serving to trigger you, to help you dissolve the overlays, these protective layers, you know, that we've all sort of put around the human to protect ourselves. You know, and even in the 4D, as an example of a protective layer that, you know, people believe in, is the light sword. You know, that you're going to protect yourself with this light sword, or a sword. Protect your truth, protect your honor. It's just another belief system. When you become that connection to Source itself, what does Source have to protect itself from? When you physically, mentally, energetically begin to interact with the essence of God within you, what is there to protect you from? When you become at one with Source, Source isn't in polarity. It can have the experience of polarity through conscious light facets of itself, okay, in the polarized field. But when you become connected to the divine essence of God within you that has always been there, there's nothing to protect yourself from. There's no fight. There's no disharmony. There's just peace, joyfulness, playfulness, because you've ended up as the child of God, the child born of God. Except you're knowing of that. It's not a belief system, because you can feel it and interact with the essence of God within your body. Conscious awareness. Conscious awareness, not belief. Conscious awareness and activity and interaction with the God within. And from that within comes the conscious awareness from within of the God outside of itself that was also there all along, and unseen, not able to be seen at a certain frequency level. So it's never ending. The journey is never ending. There is no end to it. There's just expansion. But it is this year, and this is why I've come on, because I've had so many messages of people feeling alone, feeling isolated, having difficulties with relationships within the awakened community, to just find peace in knowing there is a reason for it. And it is this year that many people in that spiritual arena will begin to pull away from it and not resonate with it, and more rely more on themselves. But just to know that that is the divine plan, that's how it's supposed to be. And when you see that that's how it works, you can find peace in knowing that it's all right, it's fine. It's fine. And in terms of those people that you might let go of, sure, you might let go of them. Maybe they'll come back. Maybe they won't. But you don't need to worry about that right now. It's about your path, because you're the creator. You're the creator. I just want to talk about self-responsibility, actually, because it does impact on divine creation. I've only touched slightly this year on divine creation, because it's just not right time to talk about it, generally speaking. It's when we, through this 4D playground, spiritual journey, bit by bit, we gently, each of us, start to take more and more responsibility for ourselves. That's the whole journey. Because in truth, our own facet of consciousness was creating this experience all along for us to rise out of, to rise into the higher pure consciousness we already are. So your consciousness is already the divine creator, outside of polarity. But the human experiences human creation in forgetfulness within the polarity field. And so when a human being wakes up, they gently move into more and more self-responsibility for their words, for their thoughts, and for their actions. And ultimately speaking, at the end of that journey of self-responsibility, it's not instant, it can take years. But when that humanness, because we're not really human, we're having a human experience. So when that humanness is at their stage of having journeyed and is taking complete and utter full responsibility for their creation, what they have created for their own expansion, instead of blaming the outside all the time. But when they ultimately, through their words, through their thoughts, their quiet thoughts, through their deeds, actions, when they have ultimately got to the point that they know they're creating it all, then they reach this responsibility of being the creator. Yeah? Until then, things happen to you. But it is only when the humanness, the consciousness, comes to the stage of complete and utter self-responsibility for what they think, for what they say, and for what they do, that they will then be given the ability, the energy, the alignments within, and the internal knowledge, which is intelligent data, of how to create in divine alignment with Source. So the ascension, I said this about 6 years ago, it's foolproof, this ascension, because everything's energy based. So it's like a game in a way. You can't get to this level until you've cleared this level, yeah. And so it's a bit like a video game in that way. We clear and clear and clear, and then new levels open up. Well, divine creation, you can only open up that level of your experience and actually connect and create in complete awareness, because the energy is felt, seen, known within you, consciously so, in complete awareness with the divine source of energy. So you create with source energy, as opposed to creating as a human being in seemingly disconnection with source energy, seemingly. So there's human creation and there's divine creation. And the beauty is, finally, the beauty is everybody is capable of it if they choose. They don't have to choose it. They may not wish it. They may think this is a load of rubbish. They may think it's all also illusion. But one choice after the other leads to an expanded conscious awareness, expanded consciousness. And then your creations are in alignment with God itself. And that's true service to all. That is the true service to all. And it's those creations where doors will just open up and open up and open up. Why? Because it's in full alignment to the divine source of creation. I leave it there. This is the year, this is the year that people are experiencing pain. I know, because I get the messages. And they're feeling isolated, they're feeling on their own, they're feeling there's nobody to talk to that understands. To just understand the bigger picture. That you're not designed to stay in 4D. You're designed to come out of it, but by coming out of it, you actually go in more, into yourself more. Because it's that journey out of the 4D into yourself, into your truer self, that then connects up your energy to the divine essence. And that is the beginning of another journey into knowing the God within you that actually was always there. You just felt a disconnection too. You thought it was over there or up there, until you feel it and know it and live with it and be with it. And that is another part of the journey that will just keep expanding and expanding into the divinity you always were. So look after yourselves this year. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but at least if you understand the storyline of how it works, how your consciousness is expanding, it's always beyond human. It's always beyond the nitty-gritty of the daily stuff. There's always a higher explanation, and it's in that higher wisdom that you see the beauty. And in seeing that beauty, you can find your own peace. There's always peace to be found in every single moment, if you seek it. So, I love you. Sorry for all the ramblings. Didn't expect to do this today. But there you go. I hope it helps somehow. God bless for now, and take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.